G'day guys and welcome back to the channel. Obviously about an hour and a half ago at 6 o'clock you watched my grand final preview with Bo from Tryline Podcast. So you guys know who I've tipped for the NRL, but these guys here, they don't know. StreamYard's weird, so we've got to point it this way. First off, let's introduce our special guest. Plenty of collaborations in the past and plenty to come in the future. One of the best content creators on the planet. Welcome Bkrsport back to the channel. How you going?
Hello, mate. Going all right. Ready for tomorrow.
Ready for tomorrow. Very exciting. The grand final.
Did I just hear someone honk? Did I see something honk in the background just then?
Yeah, I think someone went out to go get some dinner for us. Pretty early to go get dinner, but anyway,
they were honking for me, mate. They were honking because Bkrsport just got announced.
And down here we've got Alpha, who previously collaborated with us. When was it? I think round 14. NRL Tips jumped on the channel. Another great content creator, so definitely go and check both of these guys out. Before this video starts, just like the Tryline Podcast, just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Drom Clothing. Go and use code ENT15 at drom.com.au and follow Drom Clothing Co. over on Instagram to cop your latest summer designs as well as winter designs from Drom Clothing. Well, guys, grand final tomorrow. As I mentioned, my tips are known to most people watching this, unless someone's only watching you guys part 2. But in that case, go and watch part 1. But we're going to be talking all things Penrith Panthers and all things South Sydney Rabbitohs. So let's get straight into it. The Rabbitohs, coming into this final series without Latrell Mitchell was always going to be a challenge. A lot of people writing them off. They've had a fantastic season. And
I never did. Just throwing this out there. I want to get in there while you're saying this. I never did at any single stage of this season, especially when they lost by 50 twice to the Storm and the Panthers. Just throwing that out there.
A lot of people, not myself, but a lot of people had the Rabbitohs taking the premiership at the start of the year. A lot of people had either Rabbits and Storm, or to be honest, Rabbits and Panthers was thrown around. And I'm gonna point this back to BKR here because his pre-season grand final prediction has now come true. I believe you tipped the Panthers at the start of the season, so we'll have to see if you've gone with that one.
Yeah, I tipped the Panthers and Rabbits at the start of the season, and I keep saying this on my streams and whatnot. I keep saying I don't understand why people were so off the Panthers like last year, because at the beginning of the year, people were off the Panthers before the season started, because last year, obviously, everyone was saying they don't have the experience to make the finals, and then when they made the finals, they won their games, they got to the grand final, then lost, and that was the experience that I was looking for and everyone was looking for, and for some reason, everyone was like, oh, their surprise factor's gone now, and it's like, no, that's what we were waiting for them to get. That we were waiting for them to lose that game in the finals. They have this experience for this year, and I didn't get it. But yeah, I had the Panthers as the pre-season favourites.
What was your pre-season grand final, Alpha? Which two teams did you have going up against?
I had just the Panthers Storm rematch, to be honest. I couldn't really see any other team getting into the grand final. And I honestly, not going to lie, I was hating on the Bunnies all year. I thought they were pretenders, and I didn't think they'd get any further than a preliminary.
Don't worry, mate. 95% of people were like you.
Yeah. So I just couldn't see anyone beating the Storm. Hey, like the way they played the whole year, I always felt like the Storm were like up here, like just so much ahead of everyone else, and they just were going to make the grand final. But yeah, I honestly think though, like with Latrell getting suspended and all that, I honestly thought they had less chance, but they've done quite well.
They've done absolutely phenomenal. Let's get into these team lists, and filling in for Latrell is young Blake Taff. So in the NRL era, this is the youngest player to play in an NRL grand final and to be starting at fullback, not even coming off the bench for a debut or something, which I guess you'd expect in those moments. Blake Taff, his passing game against Manly, the Bunnies obviously knocking the Sea Eagles out of the competition last week. A fantastic game. We'll have to see if he can back it up. He's up against Dylan Edwards, who's had a really underrated season for mine. I think he's been great this year. I thought he was good last year, but a lot of people are saying he hasn't kept up to his form, but I really disagree. I think he's had a fantastic season, and he's come really good as well come final. So it's a really interesting matchup.
I would say that if people are talking about his form, I'd say recent form. I think this year he's been good, but I think in the recent couple of games he hasn't been as good as he normally would be. But yes, he's still very underrated as a player.
Don't you reckon he's a bit shaky coming back from the injury when he first came back? Like earlier in the year. It was a long time ago now, but I remember there was like a couple of rounds when he first came back, and like I was like, bro, he doesn't look like the same player. You know what I mean? But he's playing well now at the moment.
I don't want to disrespect him at all because I always say that he's a very good player and I think he's very
Great
underrated.
effort player as well too.
I just don't think that he's been good in the finals. I think he's been great. I think he's been great this regular season and like I said, so underrated. But this final series, this season so far hasn't been his best.
I thought he played well in the preliminary though.
I thought he was brilliant last week.
His preliminary was pretty good, but in the same sense, it was still overshadowed in my personal opinion.
Well, let's get into the halves. The halves is a really interesting battle. You've got Jerome Luai and Cody Walker going up against Nathan Cleary and Adam Reynolds. Adam Reynolds obviously off to the Broncos, as well as from the Panthers, Kurt Capewell off to the Broncos. So two players in the grand final will be heading to up the ditch to Brisbane next year. But Nathan Cleary, phenomenal season, up there in the Dally M top 3. So who has the edge? The Bunnies have been in great form throughout the finals, but so have Penrith. Don't reveal your tip, but who has that edge in that particular position of the halves?
I'll let you go first, Kai.
For me, I don't know. I just can't go past Cleary. Hey, like Cleary's just that exceptional, and
absolutely.
I feel like the kicking game that he has, and I think we've seen, and like I'm not being disrespectful to Reynolds, and Walker, but like they've choked in the past. Like they've had their moments where they haven't been at their best in the finals. You know what I mean? But and also if like by himself, and also by himself, like Luai, I don't really rate as highly without Cleary. But together, they're just like I feel like they're the perfect match. Like Luai's kicking game isn't quite there yet. You know what I mean? But Cleary's kicking game is just that exceptional that it's just you don't have to worry about it. So for me, I think the Panthers have the better halves pairing.
Yeah, look, I would personally say that, well, I say this all the time, that I think that by the end of his career on this current trajectory, that Cleary could be the best player that we've ever seen in any position. If he continues like this, he's only, 24 years old. If he continues like this, he will legitimately be the best player that I've ever seen, in my personal opinion, right? But it's still a long way to go between drinks. I think that the elusiveness of Luai and the kind of and Cleary together, they're just such wild cards. And Cleary is so safe, but so expansive as well. When you go and have a look at the Rabbitohs, Reynolds is very safe. I don't know if I'd say expansive is his word, but Cody Walker is definitely elusive and expansive and can move around and float around exactly what you want from a 6. So not negatively putting anything on the Rabbitohs here, but I would personally take the safety and specialness of the Panthers halves in comparison to the Rabbitohs, who I'd say are a lot more safe in that regard. But in saying that, there's probably more consistency in both Reynolds and Cody Walker than there is with Luai, because Luai sometimes can actually be a little bit not so great, but he was pretty decent in that preliminary, or pretty good in that preliminary final.
Absolutely. Let's get into the interchange position. Now, the bench for both of these sides, very interesting. A few different buys throughout the season for both of these teams. The big one missing for the Panthers is Tavita Pangai Jr. He's been outstanding in the side for the weeks that he has played against from the Tigers up until now. Obviously, injury means that his time with Penrith comes to an end, so he'll be straight to the Bulldogs for the Bulldogs fans next year. Panthers bench comes with Tyrone May, Scott Sorensen, who's been really, really good in recent weeks. And he came back from that injury and just played even better after 2 weeks off. Young Spencer Linu and Liam Martin, who's had, I believe he was back rower, if I'm not mistaken, in the grand final. So he's played in a grand final as well. He knows.
He also played Origin as well, so he's got that experience.
Exactly. Then you've got the Rabbitohs, Benji Marshall. Let's talk about Benji Marshall, champion.
The GOAT.
Well, you're a Tigers fan, man. Like you'd be loving this. At least you've got we know the long-suffering history of the West Tigers, especially in the last 10 years. So at least you've got, I guess, this is the closest you guys have got to a grand final in 17 years.
Did anyone see? I just want to interrupt you. Did anyone see Random Stats Guy's Benji Marshall stat this afternoon?
Was it like the one about the politicians?
Yeah. So the last
I did see that actually.
Last time that a premier in New South Wales resigned, Benji Marshall's Tigers went on to win the grand final. And here Benji Marshall is returning to the big stage as Gladys Berejiklian resigns from Parliament. So is that omens for the Rabbitohs?
Oh, man, the amount of omens that I hear week in, week out is ridiculous.
I said to my mum at the start of the year, I said, it's upsetting that he's leaving the Tigers, but at least he has a chance of winning a premiership. And I'll actually be quite frustrated if he doesn't retire this year and he wins the premiership, because that's the perfect way to go out.
I think he's waiting for it. If he gets it, then he retires.
Yeah,
If he gets
surely.
it, he retires.
If he doesn't get it,
then...
like, I understand to go back and try and do it again. But I think the Bunnies is their best chance to do it, like with the team they got, especially with Reynolds leaving. So, yeah, I honestly, what a man, what a legend.
What a man. It doesn't matter what team you like. It doesn't matter who you are. You can't not like a bit of the bench. Like, he is, I guess, for people around my age too, like, that's who we grew up as young kids kind of getting into the game with. And a lot of the younger kids now would be thinking about the likes of Cleary and Trebojevic and whatnot. But I remember growing up and watching Benji Marshall run around for the Tigers and Scotty Prince and whatnot. So, no, I guess it's kind of me reminiscing back to those days when I was a young lad as well, which is great to see.
Yeah, and I think there's an aura about Benji. Like, yeah, he was like an excellent talent, but I feel like just the way he played the game, he did more than just be a great player. You know, like, he just changed the game, which I know a lot of people say. Like, yeah, and he just, I don't know. Even for me as a kid, like, that was just who I would watch every day. Like, every time I could watch highlights, I used to have like a Tigers, like, what's it called? VHR? I don't know. What are they? The old things?
Oh,
and I used to have one of those.
Yeah.
And I used to watch him all the time on it. Like, yeah, it's just made the game so much better for everyone. I feel like so much.
Yeah, kids out there, not everything is really easy to go on YouTube and look at highlights back
then.
It's not as easy. It's easy now. It wasn't easy back then, but.
So no team has ever won the comp after having 50 points conceded against them. Now, the Rabbitohs, this is a huge talking point. They're in the grand final box seat. They are underdogs going into the game, but they have a potential to win a grand final. They had 50 put on them twice, and it was against Penrith and Melbourne, two of the best sides all year. I'm going to chuck that game against Melbourne right out the window. Yes, I know that they had 50 put on them, but they didn't have Adam Reynolds and they didn't have Cameron Murray. They were without Cameron Murray for the Panthers, but if their halves were good enough, which they are, there should have been a closer scoreline than 56-12. So that Panthers Rabbits earlier is in the back of my mind, but I'm prepared to throw that Storm one where I think Josh Adokar scored 6 tries in the match right out the window. In saying that, though, so that gives the Rabbitohs a slight advantage. Penrith's defence has been outstanding this year, but in recent weeks they've struggled to produce points. And that's the weaknesses for both of these sides, in my opinion. What would you say is each side's biggest weakness, BKR?
Oh, I just want to throw this out there firstly. The 50-point stat is the dumbest stat on the planet. The Knights in 2001 conceded 49 to the Sharks, I believe it was, and won the comp. So we're literally talking as a matter of 1 point difference as that. And I guess that is a stat, like, fair enough. Like, it's correct, but it's also dumb. And at the time, the Rabbitohs also, people forget, the Rabbitohs, when they lost those games, had one of the worst defenses in the league. They were like the Titans in the sense that they could score so many points, but they would concede so many points. So the Rabbitohs would force you to have to kind of outscore them, and didn't really care how much you scored themselves. And that's why in the game of the Titans and Rabbitohs, it was 40-30. And that was a lot of Rabbitohs games this year. So their defense, and I'd said this on all my streams too, the Rabbitohs defense probably about 7-8 weeks out had dramatically improved significantly to probably a top 4 defense, but it went so under the radar because everyone kept focusing on the front. They'd lost those games by big margins early in the year, and everyone's kept talking about the hype train of the Rabbitohs not having great defense. But they really improved it with 8 weeks to go or so, and I put them into the top 4. But I do have the Panthers defense as the best defense in the competition, and although they've kind of been how you going recently, they still held the Storm to 8 points in the game on the weekend. What was it? Was it 12-8?
10-6, I think.
10-6 or 10-6. There you go. Yeah. Gee, so even less points, 10-6. So Panthers have the best defense, right? And then you've got the Rabbitohs, who will force you to try and take it off. So the biggest weakness, basically, of the Rabbitohs is that their defense has been great, but they still are pretty happy to allow you to score as many as you want because they will outscore you, is kind of, if that's the only weakness that I can find from that. And then, did you ask me my weakness for the Panthers too, or no?
Yeah, weakness for each team.
Weakness for the Panthers is kind of just inconsistency, realistically. It's just the fact that, like, because Cleary and Luai are so elusive and you don't really necessarily know what you're going to do, sometimes it kind of works against your favor in that sense that you have a little bit too much a kind of creativity there that you don't have the structure. We see this a lot in football, actually, where you can have as much creativity as you like in Arsenal, but if you don't have the structure like Man City, then you're not going to get the mixture of both. And that's the problem with Panthers. And I think I'm not going to give my tip, but overall, the Panthers' only weakness would be there. Maybe a little bit too much creativity from time to time.
Kai, what's your weakness?
I pretty much agree with BKR. I don't know. I think like the Bunnies, I think that the stage and like the grand final, like they just have to turn up, and I think their defense will be there, like it has been in recent weeks. But like as we've said, the Panthers have the best defense in the league. I don't know. The weaknesses for me is just like I think it's just going to be. I think if the Panthers can get out to a lead early, it's going to be. It could like. What's it
the
called?
Old Melbourne Storm ambush of last year.
Yeah, it could just keep going, basically. So, yeah, I basically agree with BKR. Like, that's really, they both have weaknesses, as in the Panthers haven't scored recently well at all, but I think they still have it in them. They did obviously just play Melbourne, which is hard to score against anyways, but yeah.
Well, Melbourne's the second best defense in the league.
Yeah.
So absolutely. Well, no team, I've mentioned it a few times throughout this, no team has ever had 50 points. You hate the stat, but I'm going to say it one more time.
Government stat. Anyone who says his stat, I hate you. And even if the Rabbitohs do lose this week, I still hate you for the stupid stat.
No team has ever won the comp after having 50 points scored on them until the 3rd of October 2021. I'm tipping the Rabbitohs to win the competition. The Penrith Panthers have had outstanding defense. They have had a fantastic 2021 season, and the season will probably be very underwhelming for a lot of fans if they do go out in back-to-back grand finals. But I just think that the perfect send-off for Benji is ready to go. And I think if the game was postponed, I would have that lean towards the Panthers. I thought they looked flat against the Storm. They were still bashing their bodies, but they've had some very tiring games. And I think that they're struggling to score points. We saw it against Parramatta. We saw it against Melbourne. I don't see this game being too low scoring, and I think that the Rabbitohs can outscore them. So I'm going to tip the Rabbitohs by 10, boys. I'm going to go the Rabbits to win 22 points to 12. Dane Gagai to score the first try of the match. He's at $18. Bit of value there. My Clive Churchill pick is Adam Reynolds. Now, Cody Walker provided a lot of the kicking game last week. It could be the same situation, so it's a bit of a roughie, but Adam Reynolds heading to the Bronco. You've seen how good his kicking game is over the years, that 2018, 2019 form. 2020 was a bit questionable going out in that prelim, but almost kicked that 40-20 towards the end of the game, so he can stand up in big moments for mine, and this is for mine, the Rabbitohs' chance. I like Nathan Cleary to score a try at $3.75. But those are my tips. I'll get into my multi later. Let's get into the boys' tips. BKR, are you with or against?
Oh, no, I'm against you. Absolutely, I'm going against you. I'm going the Panthers here. I'm going Panthers by 12, and I think that it could be more. But in the same sense, I'm going to give, obviously, the respect to the Rabbitohs here because I personally want the Rabbitohs to win. Like I've been saying, I've been backing them in since they lost those games by 50, right? But I just can't see it. I just don't see the Rabbitohs being able to get over the top of the Panthers here defensively. Like, defense wins championships. This is known. Whether it's the NFL when the Denver Broncos took on the Seattle Seahawks and the better defense won the championship. You know, we look at the Premier League and it happens all the time. The best defense usually wins. We look at the NRL and right now we have the best defense going up against a pretty good defense. And then we've also got the Panthers and the Rabbitohs, who I'd say the Rabbitohs have the best attack and the Panthers would have the second best attack. So you do the math there. You've got Panthers being second and first and the Rabbitohs being first and you could argue fourth, fifth in regards to defense, but still decent defense. So mathematically, in regards to my opinion there, I would say the Panthers definitely have the advantage. The only problem that I could see is that the Rabbitohs do absolutely go out for that kind of ambush. You have to outscore us, and we don't really mind how many you score. But I just can't see that happening against this Panthers defense that have just held the Storm to 6 points. And as Alpha said, they're the team that everyone thought was going to win this year. They're the team that everyone thought Melbourne Storm were going to go back to back. There's no chance the Panthers are going to beat them. I heard this all the time. I get all these people commenting saying there's no chance the Panthers are going to beat the Storm. I think Storm 13 plus, and I said no, I'm taking the Panthers here because I just think the Panthers are going to be able to get this revenge. Now, another problem is that could be their grand final, the Panthers, in the sense that usually we see a grand final-esque game in revenge, and last year we saw the Raiders beat the Roosters as their revenge grand final and then went on to get ambushed by the Storm and blown out by the Storm in the preliminary final. So that's my only worry here. But I'm taking the Panthers by 12. I think that they'll be consistent enough, and I think that they'll be able to outplay the Rabbitohs for 80 minutes rather than just going bang. And although you said, Alpha, that you thought they could go out to a start and keep going, I think if they go out to a start, I don't think it's going to be an absolute just whitewash. But then again, we do see a lot of whitewashes in grand finals. We do. We see a lot of them. Only recently we saw a couple of those cheeky little games in 2015 and 2019. Don't start me on the 2020 grand final because that was just woeful. I don't care how close it was. It wasn't close realistically between the Storm and the Panthers. But overall, Panthers by 12 points, and I'll take first try scorer Fisher Harris. I think a forward's going to be able to get it for him, and that's probably going to be quite a high first try scorer there. I'll take Fisher Harris. And I don't think I have anything else I need to say. Clive Churchill will be Nathan Cleary.
For me, my tip, I'm going with the Bunnies by 6.
Fair enough.
I actually think that the preliminary that the Panthers just played was their grand final. I think that that game looked like it took a lot out of them, honestly, and I felt like with their offense kind of struggling at the moment, if they're going to have a game like that in the grand final, if they continue to play like that, it might be the game where they fall short. And I think we're forgetting that the Bunnies beat them in round 1 of the finals. You know what I mean? The first week.
I did tip the Rabbitohs for that, by the way.
Yeah.
And everyone told me I was crazy.
I think the Bunnies have showed it recently, and obviously I think form is what matters at the moment. And they're both in excellent form, right? Obviously they both are, but to make it to the grand final, you have to be. But I genuinely just feel like the Panthers having to play, go the long way, basically. And then maybe fatigue. I feel like fatigue's going to ruin them here. And my first try scorer is just Alex Johnston, just simple, because he always scores. But the one thing I do have to say is, I don't know, I feel like Jackson Paulo on the wing, his side, they may struggle, right? I feel like defensively, I don't know, there was a certain part in the game against the Storm, and I feel like he just gets caught out a little bit, just that side. And it's really important in a grand final game when you're that close, when the teams are so evenly matched. You need everyone to be on song, and they just have to be careful, especially with the defense that the Rabbitohs have. They can be iffy at times. But yeah, I'm going with the Bunnies, and I think it will be close. But I think just with the long way around that the Panthers had to go through, then the Bunnies will just get over the line.
I want to chuck in some value bets here. Obviously, Bkrsport, you've gone with the Panthers. So I'd like to know what you think of this. This is available on the BYO's value section of Sportsbet. There is an $11 multi for the Penrith Panthers to cover a line of 3, which means that the Panthers win by 4 or more points, which you've taken them by 12, so they cover that. Under 37 total points scored. They've got the best defense in the league. Can they shut the Rabbitohs down that much? It's a touch and go. Brian To'o to score at any time, and Cleary for the Clive Churchill medal, which you've picked. That's $11 odds. So I just wanted to chuck that out for the viewers that if you like the Panthers, that really could be a bit of value in this grand final. That's pretty good, to be honest with you, yeah. Pretty good. My personal multi that I've gone with to be safe is I've gone with under 50 points scored. I've gone with that 44 as a total. I don't think there'll be over 40 points, to be honest with you, especially being a grand final. But as you mentioned, we've seen plenty of blowouts throughout the years and plenty of high scores. I'm going with the Penrith Panthers to score under 20 points, Souths over 8. And then the Panthers.
That's dangerous, man. That's dangerous. The Panthers
under 20. We'll see. And the Panthers to cover the line of 16.5. The odds are pretty shithouse. I think it's fairly safe for the most part, but the odds get you $2.70 for that one. And I just want to chuck this in here because you like the Panthers. Is there any chance that either of you can see Brian To'o picking up the Clive Churchill medal?
No.
He is at $26. He's a meter eater, gets downfield, gets into those positions where Cleary's attack can really be on. And if Cleary's a little bit off, but still leading to tries because of Brian's run meters, I think he's a bit of a smoky.
The only reason I'd say no is because
he's a winger.
I feel like he's a winger, and also if Toa's scoring, it's more than likely going to be off Cleary or Luai, so they're probably going to get the plaudits more as well. You know what I mean? And it's really unlikely they give it to a winger unless he has like an insane game, multiple tries, like heaps of run meters. But yeah, it is a smoky though.
Like you said, though, man, like if he's getting like 4 tries, that's great, but it's probably Cleary who's kicking it.
Yeah, and then they're going to give you. It's very unlikely, I reckon, that they would give it to a winger over a half. I also wanted to mention, I didn't say it in my bet, but Taff, to me, like I rate him so highly. Like I feel like how he meshes in the offense sometimes to me is better than Latrell. Like how he's been playing recently, just like in an attacking sense, and like he's fit in so well, and the way he runs at the line, like off kick returns and stuff. I don't know. Like I feel like he's going to have an excellent game. I genuinely do. I think he's going to play really, really well.
So you think he's going to be able to cover the high balls? Because he's dropped a couple, and Cleary is a big kicker.
Yeah, he's a big kicker. And it'll be a test. But I don't think like, you know, when you watch certain players, you can tell they're nervous, like they get anxious and stuff when they drop a few balls. Like I feel he's the type of guy that like kind of forgets about it. Like kind of like Reece Walsh, you'll watch him and he'll make a mistake. The next play, he'll try and do something like extravagant. I don't think he'll do extravagant. He's not that type of player. But I think look, there's not going to be much room for error in a grand final, but I think he's going to play especially really well, especially if they have the ball a lot. Like if they have a lot of possession and they're playing like on the Panthers line, like Panthers are defending on their own line a lot. I think he'll play a big part in the game, to be honest.
It's going to be a very, very big game. Obviously, I've gone the Rabbits. You've gone the Rabbits. If the Rabbits win, I win money. On the other side of things, at the start of the year, BKR and I both tipped the Penrith Panthers to take out the competition. And
you were one of the only other people who tipped the Panthers with me. I didn't see many other people. I remember you were.
Yeah, there weren't many. There weren't many. A lot of people going the Storm back to back. I think a few people went the Rabbitohs as well. I think Paddy might have gone the Rabbitohs. Not sure.
Like I said, most people tipped the Panthers out of the top 4.
Well, as soon as we tip the Panthers, a lot of you guys know the channel for the card-related videos. I don't know if you know about these, Alpha, but they make these premiership predictor cards where if that team goes on to win the comp, you get it back in March. If they win the comp, you get a grand final set of players. And look, if the Rabbits win, I win money. But either way, if the Panthers win, I get the grand final set thanks to myself and BKR's tipping the Penrith Panthers at the start of the year. So we've all, I've gone the Rabbits, you've gone the Rabbits, BKR gone with the Penrith Panthers and doesn't mind that value multi as well.
Just throwing this out there, though, I want the Rabbitohs to win this. Like, I don't think they do, but I want them to win. 1, because of the dumb 50-point stat, and 2, Benji Marshall, and 3, because it would just be a good heyday kind of, you know, final.
Do you think Benji has a big impact? Like, can you see him having any impact?
He's off the bench, man.
I worry... No, I worry though, like, and I love Benji. I'm Benji's biggest fan, but I worry that he gets put into it like a certain moment, like a big, like moment in the game, and maybe he can't keep up, type thing. You know what I mean?
Reynolds
like defensively,
and Benji Marshall is on, who takes a field goal?
Oh, Reynolds. Marshall. I don't feel like Marshall's about that life anymore. Because like even in the Tigers, like he didn't really like kicking it, like conversion.
I only remember him kicking a 55-meter field goal against the Titans. Back
I remember that game. That was a long time ago, though. Now I don't think you'd kick it over Reynolds, anyways. It's Reynolds' final game. For
I was at a preliminary or semi-final the other year. It's Rabbitohs and Dragons, and Reynolds kicked 3 field goals to win them.
Best game I've ever been to. Best game of football I've ever been. I've been to 120 games. It's the best game I've ever been to. That game with the Dragons led with a minute to go, and Reynolds kicked 2 field goals within 2 minutes.
You still haven't seen an extra time though, have you?
No, still never been to Golden Point. Closest I've been to Golden Point was the Manly Sea Eagles and Warriors this year. So close.
Oh yeah, Manly won that close. Field goal, was it?
13-12.
Terry Evans by a field goal, and that was when
that
Manly
was the week before Titans got blown out. Yeah,
that was when everyone tipped the Warriors. 86% of people tipped the Warriors.
Yeah, I did too.
Manly.
I can't even above that. Anyway, just before you do end this video, I just want to throw it out there again for everyone out there. Not hating on the Rabbitohs, because every time I tip against someone, everyone always thinks I'm hating. And, you know, everyone's going with the hype train Rabbitohs. That's good. You know, I look forward to seeing the hype train Rabbitohs, because if they win, then they'll be fantastic. And I find it awesome that a team that's not the Storm has won it. And I don't hate the Storm, but it's just so repetitive. And same with the Roosters. At least we're seeing a fresh team win it. But I kind of probably will get behind the Rabbitohs this week, but I just think the Panthers are going to be too good.
Anything else to say, Alpha, before I wrap it up?
Nothing more to add. Go the Bunnies, and
There we
hopefully
go.
Benji
So,
gets that
guys,
championship.
Yes. All right, guys, make sure you go and subscribe to BKR Sport and go and check out BKR Sport over on Instagram. Go and check out Alpha on YouTube as well as, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, well, both these guys are going to be on that new series in regards to the draft series where we do go through the best players of all time in each individual team. We've got obviously Alpha for the Tigers and Hayden for the Parramatta Eels. So, yeah, just go and check that out. It comes out every Wednesday, 5 p.m.
I hear a little birdie tells me the Newcastle Knights will be coming out on Wednesday.
Bingo.
There we go, guys. Make sure you do go and subscribe to their channels. Follow them on Instagram. Obviously, if you're not subscribed around here, hit that subscribe button. We're on that grind to 4,000. We've hit 3,000 fairly recently. So let's go for that 4,000. Go the Bunnies tomorrow night. Obviously, in Blaze tipping the Panthers, but getting behind the Rabbitohs to a sense. So
I don't really care.
Fantastic grand final. Looking forward to it. Thanks for watching, guys. And I'll see you guys.